All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are with Mr. David Boehm. All right, Mr. David, very nice to have you here. How are you today?
I'm great. Nice to meet you, Mo.
Awesome, awesome. Just a small little introduction. Mr. Boehm here is a serial entrepreneur, co-founder and chairman of the Miskawaan Health Group, and I'm lucky enough to have a nice interview with you today. Thank you so much for joining me, and tell me about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Sydney, Australia. I left Australia when I was 24 years old, and I worked firstly in London and then New York and then Hong Kong. Okay. Most of my life I've been living in Asia, primarily in Hong Kong, but also in Singapore and in Thailand. I have quite a large family. In addition to my wife, I have 7 children and 4 granddaughters, so that keeps me pretty busy. And I have a zest for business, and I have a passion for horse racing. So that's David Boehm in 30 seconds.
That's awesome. Well, Australia, that's a huge leap. Australia to Asia. What took you across the world?
Yeah, when you grow up in Australia, you always want to go and see the big wide world because you're so far away from everywhere. And I was always very keen to travel and to try and work in different countries. So when I finished my accounting qualification in 1981, I had an opportunity to go and work with a UK firm which is trading in commodities. And I worked with them in London, as I mentioned, and then the same company in New York, and the same company in Hong Kong. And I ended up in Hong Kong during a period of time that was quite turbulent for the business, and they lost a lot of money and they shut down their Asian operations. But I decided I really liked living in Asia, Hong Kong in particular. So being a chartered accountant by profession, I managed to use that qualification to go back to the accounting business for a time, and that was in 1983 in Hong Kong.
Very interesting. I know you had a pretty incredible career transition from accounting, then to mining, and now to revolutionizing healthcare. What was the driving force behind this? How did you go from one industry into the other, and what made you do that?
Well, as I mentioned, in 1983, I went back to the profession in Hong Kong so I could stay in Hong Kong. I became a partner in that firm, Grant Thornton, in 1986. At the ripe old age of 28. And I have to say that aspiring to become a partner in an accounting firm is what many accountants look to achieve.
Of course.
But when I became a partner, it was probably the biggest disappointment in my career, because you think in a partnership that everybody wants to be in the boat and row together and make the business successful, but I found it was much more about politics and people trying to just create their own nest and feather their own nest. So it was quite disillusioning for me. I had some great clients, so I was very happy with that. And one of my clients in the 90s was a guy called Robert Friedland. He's probably known as the best mining promoter in the world. And he was setting up his operations in the mid-90s in Singapore. And he and I talked, and we decided I'd join him on his finance team. And at the ripe old age of 38, I retired from my accounting practice as a partner, which almost never happens. And then I joined Robert in Singapore when he set up his Ivanhoe Capital Corporation business to be based in Singapore. And that was in, I mentioned, 1996. And then I worked with Robert for about 5 years. And then a lot of my clients in the accounting business had followed Robert, and he followed a stock called Diamond Fields, which was a penny stock when they brought in. And I think they sold at about $25 a share. So it was a huge win.
Did you get some of that?
Yeah, of course.
Intel?
So, when I moved back to Hong Kong in the early 2000s, my former clients and we set up a fund to invest in entrepreneurial mining stocks with guys like Robert Friedland. And if you recall, around 2000, a lot of the old junior mining companies had become dot-coms. And then in the early 2000s, the dot-coms reverted back to junior mining companies. So
there you go.
We had a bit of a boom in that decade, and so we enjoyed those times. It made some good returns following guys like Robert Friedland. And we then sort of looked at other businesses. We started a hospitality business here in Thailand. And I guess it was around about...
I didn't see that. I tried reading up on you, doing some research. I didn't see the hospitality part of it.
Well, that's the Miskawaan Villas in Koh Samui.
Oh, okay. The villas. Yeah, I did see that, of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I thought the F&B, just hotels, right?
Hotel, of course, with an F&B element. But it's luxury villas right on the beach in Koh Samui.
Which I'll be visiting, I think, pretty soon.
I hope so. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. It's a fantastic place. As soon as you get there, you'll feel as though you are rehabilitated. Because there's beautiful fresh air and sun and sand and sea, beautiful food. The beaches aren't very crowded, and it's just a great place to relax.
And to rejuvenate and to get treatment, we'll jump
Right.
into that when we get to it. But there, you also have a medical facility there where people can get treated, and
we have the only licensed medical clinic right on the beach in Thailand.
Well, there you go. I repeat, the only licensed medical clinic to do that.
Right on the beach. Yeah.
Right on the beach. That's beautiful. All right. Well, then that kind of carries me on to the next question. Is you went into, after mining, how did you get into the medical field?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Robert Friedland knew this doctor, Dr. Johannes Wesley, who's based in a place called Ludwigsburg. It's near Stuttgart in Germany. And I'm nearly 68. When I was in my early 50s, I started to feel less energetic and less virulent than I was used to. And Robert recommended I go and see Dr. Wesley to see if he could rebalance my body. So I wasn't ill per se, but I wasn't as good as I felt I should be.
You felt your body was lacking something, right?
Yeah, I felt it was lacking something. And what it was andropause, male menopause. When you go through a change, and it's quite common in your late 40s, early 50s, almost everybody goes through it in one shape or form. And so I went to see Dr. Wesley, and basically we're kind of designed as human beings to be born and grow up and procreate and then die, right? So in the old days, we kind of got eaten by a saber-toothed tiger in the 40s, and that's it. We're not really designed, we haven't really evolved that well to be going into our 50s, 60s and beyond. So we have to help nature and help nature rebalance our body. So as you get older, you lose the ability to produce certain hormones. Depending on how you live your life, quite many of us are deficient in vitamins, minerals, amino acids. So what Dr. Wesley does, he does a comprehensive analysis of your body, a lot of blood tests. He sees where you are deficient, and then he rebalances your body. So 50 years of living life on the planet and not always doing the right thing doesn't get rectified overnight. But after my wife and I went to see him for about, in a year, we went to see him probably every 4 months or so, 3 times a year. So after about a year, basically had my energy, my vitality back. And I'd have to say now at age 68, I feel more energetic than I did 20 years ago because my body is very well balanced. And I got to know Dr. Wesley and his family pretty well. We used to take trips together. And I found that he was not only a very good doctor for this kind of preventative medicine, but also for curative medicine. He helped a lot of people actually recovering from very serious chronic disease, including things like cancer. So I said to him one day, Johannes, what is going to happen to all this medical knowledge you built up over the last 20, 30 years when you retire? And he said, well, I've never thought about that. I've been too busy treating people. So I said, wouldn't it be a good idea if we could actually sort of somehow harness that knowledge, maybe digitize the knowledge, transfer it to other doctors, and keep your legacy going? And he thought that's a great idea. So that's the germ of the idea that started Miskawaan Health Group.
Okay, so so you formed this partnership, and then after I read something that on LinkedIn that you also got the dengue fever. So you had established the partnership, and then you got the dengue fever. So how did that experience not only challenge you personally, but also inspire you to transform this health crisis into the foundation of what your company has become now?
Yeah, well, actually, it's one of these situations where you set up a business and the business saves your life, and that's really what happened. We decided to set up the business in Thailand because, firstly, Thailand has a very long history of medical tourism. People love coming to Thailand for the food, the beaches, the hospitality, the sites that are here. So it's a very popular destination anyway. The doctors, when they go to medical school, learn not just about conventional Western medicine, but also traditional Thai medicine. So they have a wider view of medicine than, say, a doctor would in the West. And very importantly, they have a long history of traditional Thai medicine. So people are used to dealing with medical issues, not just in the conventional pharmaceutical way. So we set up here in May 2018, and then it was December 2019, right before COVID. I was with my wife in Paris, and I started to feel pretty sick, like really sick. And I know I'm really sick when I have no appetite because I like to eat food.
Likewise.
And it was the first time since we'd been together for almost 10 years that my wife had seen me without an appetite.
Red flag.
So red flag. She was trying to force feed me and bananas and you name it, and everything I ate just came out, right? I couldn't hold down anything.
No.
So we called the doctor to the hotel, and the doctor said, yeah, it's a bacterial infection. Here's some aspirin, here's some paracetamol, and here's some antibiotics.
The usual
cocktail. And even though 90% of the time when you present in this way, it's a viral infection, and those things just don't help. I mean, the paracetamol could help with the fever. And that was on a Friday. The next day I felt worse, so another doctor came, he said, yeah, it's bacterial and keep taking the same drugs. Neither doctor asked me where I'd been. Obviously I was a visitor. My wife was obviously Asian. And they just didn't ask, right? So the next day was a Sunday. Dr. Wesley was here in Thailand, in our clinic here, and I rang him and I explained to him what happened. He said, stop taking all the medicine and come immediately back to Bangkok. So we hopped on a plane the next day, and that was Christmas Eve. We arrived on Christmas Day in Bangkok, 2019. I was so weak that my wife had to arrange a wheelchair. Had to be wheelchaired through immigration. I can vaguely remember that happening, and then we came straight to the clinic, and Dr. Wesley told me later that I looked like death warmed up, and my platelet count was around 22,000 when I presented to the clinic. If I was in a hospital, that would have put me in ICU. That's your
red line.
Yeah, I mean it's 30,000 is about the red line. That's basically your mechanism for your blood clotting, right? And so I was susceptible to die of internal bleeding at any moment because my platelet count was so low. And the Thai doctors who were with us at the time suspected dengue fever, but it takes a couple of days to manifest in terms of the results. But we have, so the treatment for dengue fever is saline solution because you get dehydrated very quickly. And there's not much else that's in the toolkit, but Dr. Wesley has developed these amazing cocktails of vitamins, minerals, and amino acids which are delivered intravenously. So as well as getting the saline solution, I was getting all these extra vitamins and minerals which enabled me to recover much more quickly than ordinarily I would just on a saline solution drip. So on Christmas Day, by that afternoon, I was actually starting to feel a bit hungry again. And by the end of the week, by Friday, Christmas Day was a Tuesday. Luckily, by the way, Christmas is not a holiday in Thailand. By the end of the week, I was back out at restaurants. So I had a very rapid recovery because of the infusions that I was getting that we were using in the clinic. So literally, if I'd stayed in Paris, I would have ended up in hospital, and by then it would have been too late. I would have died of internal bleeding. So literally, the business saved my life. So whenever it's tough and business is difficult, and
you just remember.
Yeah, I just remember that just as well I set up the business because, as I mentioned, it literally saved my life. So that's the story of my dengue fever.
And you would say it was functional medicine that did this. So let's say people that are watching that don't know what functional medicine is, how would you explain it in dummy words? Like, what's functional medicine?
Yeah, I mean, look, it can mean different things to different people, but the way I like to think of functional medicine is just that what Dr. Wesley says is that the best doctor is your own body. True. So if your body's working well, then you can fight off any bacteria, any virus, any pathogen, and recover by yourself. So the core competency of what we do as a medical business is to make your immune system calm and balanced. So your immune system is working as well as it possibly can as a human being. So functional medicine is basically just that. It's just helping your body be as efficient and as strong as it can be in terms of your immune system.
Not waiting till you're about to die and then give you aspirin.
That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, having been a patient of Dr. Wesley already, I had a reasonably good immune system. But sometimes you get something like dengue fever, and if you don't respect it,
it'll get
then it can get you. Yeah. I mean, there's lots of things out there that can cause us serious harm, as we know. So, and the other thing about functional medicine that's important is that it's like traditional Chinese medicine, it's like traditional Thai medicine, that it looks at the human as a whole person, right? You could use the word holistic. It's quite overused, but that's a very good word to describe functional medicine. It looks at the human as a whole unit, not a collection of parts. We're not an automobile. So Dr. Wesley says that one of the very complicating factors that's happened in modern medicine these days is that we have a lot of specializations. So you have something wrong with your lung, you go and see the lung doctor, and you go and see the kidney doctor for the kidney. And the problem is he's only focusing on his speciality and not the rest of the body. So functional medicine is very much focusing on the human as a unit because everything is connected to everything, and when you get sick, there's always a multitude of reasons as to why you're sick. A number of things have gone wrong, so you've got to focus on all those reasons and not just the one thing that might have caused that symptom. So that's functional medicine, the way I like to think of it.
And there's one breakthrough that you actually just come up. You've partnered with a massive company in Hong Kong, I believe, correct? Would you tell me a little bit about this partnership? What's this breakthrough treatment that you have? I believe it's the CHA.
chlorogenic acid. Yes, I mean, I should also mention that our medical practice is integrated functional medicine. So we're not dogmatic, we don't disown conventional medicine. There's a lot of conventional medicine that's very useful for human beings. If you come here and you have a bacterial infection, and if we don't give you antibiotics, you're going to die, well, we're definitely going to give you antibiotics. But at the same time, we'll give you other prescriptions, probiotics, prebiotics, so on, that help you recover your gut flora and fauna as quickly as possible, because as we now know, antibiotics destroy the good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria. So it's very important to emphasize that we are integrated functional medicine practitioners. So what I've done in the 6 years or so that we've been in business is that I'm always looking for innovative medical therapies, safe and effective and ideally plant-based. Because the good thing about plant-based medications is that our bodies recognize them as natural. So generally there's no side effect. If you take something that's a chemical drug, to make it a chemical drug and to make a patent from that, you've had to change at least one molecule, which means you can then make a patent, because you can't patent nature, but then your body doesn't recognize it as natural, so then the side effects are part of what's going on when you take that particular product. So we were fortunate to be introduced to a company called Zhejiang Biotech, and this company has developed this product called chlorogenic acid, which is nothing new. If you look on the internet, there's plenty of chlorogenic acid there. It's almost inevitably extracted from the coffee plant, but that means that the amount of the active ingredient is very limited coming from the coffee plant. What the scientists did at Zhejiang Biotech is they managed to find a very effective Chinese herb called leukemia bark. They didn't patent leukemia bark because you can't, it's a plant, but they found a process where they can extract a lot more of the active ingredient of chlorogenic acid, concentrate that, and make it very safe and effective for humans. So we met them earlier in this year. This product has gone through clinical trials in China. As I mentioned, it's found to be safe and effective, and its primary purpose is to treat people with certain forms of cancer. The clinical trials were on brain cancer, and the trials showed it to be very effective, particularly when compared to one of the best drugs for this particular form of cancer. The life expectancy was more than doubled. Patient-reported outcome was greatly enhanced. That means that people, while they were alive, felt much better. And they've now discovered that it's very good as a product for anti-aging as well. So I take chlorogenic acid for preventative purposes. Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah, right. And so we've signed an agreement with them to distribute the product here in Thailand, and to establish a center of excellence for chlorogenic acids where we can do more research on a broader framework of people, because the population diversity in Thailand is very large. It's a great place to do clinical trials, because as well as ethnic Thais, there's ethnic Chinese, ethnic Malays, a lot of Caucasians, ethnic Indians. So it's very good to conduct clinical trials here because of the population diversity.
That's actually what I was going to ask you, is why Thailand, and how did you get to choose Thailand for that to be your location? Is that because of the melting pot?
The melting pot, and as I mentioned, on the medical side, because the long history of medical tourism, and also the fact that they have other medical applications here, not just conventional medicine, traditional Thai medicine. There's over 2,000 herbal products in active use today from traditional Thai medicine here in Thailand. And because of that traditional Thai medicine, they have in the Department of FDA here, the Federal and Drugs Administration, they have a Department of Alternative Medicine, which includes the Thai traditional medicine, but also the kind of things like what we like to develop, like chlorogenic acid.
All right. So healthcare is one of the most regulated industries out there, and you said you're all about innovation. How are you able to balance between innovation, regulation? Is it difficult? Do you find any challenges?
Well, the one good thing about healthcare in Thailand is that with some of these innovative products, the protocol is, and it's actually quite similar to the protocols in Germany, is that if the practitioner, if the doctor wants to recommend something for a patient that has been what we say compounded, basically personalized medicine for him, as long as the patient consents, then the doctor can prescribe that for the patient and the patient can consume it. And because of the innovations that we're looking at are generally either extracted from plants or they're bioidentical to nature, which means that you can't commercially extract the active ingredient from a plant, but you can synthesize that ingredient in a laboratory. but it's still, the compound is still recognizable by the body as a natural substance. Since you're using mostly natural products or bioidentical to nature, the potential for side effects and harm is very, very, very small. So that's why we can do some innovation. So, Dr. Wesley in his practice in Germany over the last 25 years has managed to innovate, not by trial and error, but just by doing his research and seeing which of these natural products would be the best for his patient. And so the IP that we have is not just the products themselves, but also which of the products are suitable for which individual, in what dosage, and also importantly, which order you get the product. So you can't just take everything at the same time. You've got to look at the right order.
And how do you tailor those treatments per specific client?
It depends on diagnostics. So the first time you come and see us, the doctor will talk to you for quite some time. They'll generally do some fairly comprehensive diagnostics, not just the typical ones that you generally hear about with a regular checkup, but looking at things like your gut microbiome, looking at things like your mitochondria, which is the energy in the cells, and spending a lot of time talking with you about your family history, your lifestyle. Unfortunately, in modern conventional medicine, generally speaking, we're not allowing the doctors to spend too much time with the patients because there's a demand from the corporation for a certain level of profitability. So maybe the patient gets 5, 7, 8, 10 minutes with the doctor, and generally speaking that's not enough time to diagnose an illness, but you end up having a symptom and you get a drug to treat that symptom. So we try and do things in a much more comprehensive manner. And so to answer your question, how do we know how to treat each individual, is we take the time to talk to them, and we also do these comprehensive diagnostics.
Okay. Chronic diseases like diabetes and heart diseases are on the rise globally. How does Miskawaan Integrative Medicine and preventive care and chronic diseases, how do you guys manage it, and how does it differ from the conventional treatments?
Yeah, so you're talking about what can be referred to as lifestyle disease. So unfortunately, people tend to take less care about their health than they should. So diabetes is, for the most part, it's a metabolic disease, and it's often caused by people not moving enough and or not eating the right food. So if you're eating a lot of sugar or foods that turn into sugar, like bread, like potatoes, starchy carbohydrates, and you come to see us and we give you a treatment for that condition, but then you keep eating those foods in excess, we're not going to be able to help you, right? So it's very important that the patient, the client collaborates as well. But we try and encourage, first thing, a lot of patients go to see a doctor and they don't even get asked about their nutrition. So that's a critical thing about what our doctors talk about. What are you eating? What's your nutrition? Dr. Wesley started his journey by having a very chronic condition, and the condition was only corrected when he changed his diet. And being a doctor, he saw many other doctors, his colleagues, to try and rectify the condition, and he tried almost every drug known to man, including steroids, you name it, and nothing worked until he changed his nutrition. And none of his colleagues had ever asked him about his nutrition. So that's what made him very focused on nutrition. And he first gave a lecture on the importance of the gut bacteria in 2003. And all the colleagues who came to the lecture laughed at him and said, the gut's just to digest food. What are you talking about? We now know that the gut sends signals, the bacteria in the gut send signals to the brain, and it's a two-way street. So they're talking to each other. And I like the theory by some scientists that this is the hardware and this is the software, right, of a human being. So who knows? True. We don't know enough about the brain as yet. So to answer your question about how we are different when it comes to those kinds of diseases, those lifestyle diseases, is that we work with our clients to encourage them to modify their lifestyle to help the doctor with the prescriptions that he's giving to the patient to rectify those conditions as much as possible. And I think, certain kinds of diabetes, it can be reversed, but it needs the patient to collaborate. As I said, if you keep eating the wrong foods, it's going to be very hard for the doctor to give you significant help. You can get on, plenty of drugs. Now they have this new category of drugs called GLP-1, these weight loss drugs, and they can be utilized to good effect for people who need to sort of kickstart their weight loss program. But they're not designed to be taken forever because, like every drug, the more you use it, the less effective it becomes, and you have to use more and more of it. So you can't just keep doubling the dose forever. So it really is a collaboration between the patient and the doctor to have these diseases overcome in a more natural way. rather than just coming to a regular clinic, a regular doctor, and just getting a pill for a symptom, because that's not doing anything to help your long-term health goals. That's what's developed as sick care. Just keeping, that basically, it's great for the pharmaceutical industry, but not necessarily for individuals.
I also read you, besides your CHA, your chlorogenic acid, you also have secretomes, and you mentioned there the new stem cells of longevity. Can you explain how this works and why it's safer and more effective than the traditional stem cells treatments they have now?
Yeah, well, secretome is a product that I'm not a scientist, so it's difficult for me to explain scientifically, but they call it stem cells 2.0. So it's like a complete revolution in helping your body to recover. We all have billions of stem cells in our body, even as a 90-year-old human being, but we have built-in obsolescence, so our bodies forget how to use those stem cells. So many scientists have a theory that if you're just adding in stem cells generally, that may not actually have much of a health benefit, but with the secretome, you actually are sending signals to the body, to the parts of the body that need the help, to get those parts of the body effectively treated by your own internal mechanisms, so to get the condition improved and recovered. So it's more of a signaling thing as far as I understand it. We've just employed a scientist who's very experienced in this particular product, and he's leading the charge to bring it here commercially. It was developed in Singapore, but that's something that's in the pipeline. We have a number of new products in the pipeline.
The one you're focusing on now would be the chlorogenic acid.
Chlorogenic acid, because it's already been through clinical trials. It's already proved to be
yourself,
safe and effective. I'm always the guinea pig.
Yeah, which is great.
So I'm an avid user of chlorogenic acid. Yeah, that's what we're going to focus on first. That's correct.
As a co-founder and chairman of Miskawaan Health Group, and you are your own guinea pig, that must tell you something. Oh, that must tell the world something. That's definitely. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to recommend anything to
you don't do yourself.
Other people. I don't believe in myself, right? So I'm not taking. We do a lot of treatment here for cancer, people suffering from cancer. I'm not taking those kinds of products because I don't have cancer, right? But anything that is suitable for someone as a preventative product, I definitely will try it first. And again, because they're essentially natural products or bioidentical to nature, the chance of having something occur that is serious is very, very, very remote.
I've realized since I've met you, it's about a week now since I've met you, and of course all of the research I've done online is that you emphasize the importance of ethics and morals in business. In today's fast-paced, profit-driven world, how do you ensure that you continue this moral and ethical outlook on your business?
Yeah, my father brought me up to always be straight in business, and I hope I can say at the end of my career that I've always done that. I think that there's always a temptation to make a quick buck, but I think that if you present yourself as being a reliable partner, a reliable colleague, a reliable employer, that it's going to be more beneficial in the long run. People respect you, and people like to emulate you. So it's just something that I've done all my life. I've believed it all my life, and it's served me well. No point to change that. I've seen plenty of people who've done things that compromise their morals, compromise their ethics, and it never really turns out too well. It might turn out financially beneficial in the short term, but at the end of the day, karma's coming to get you.
You mentioned something about partnerships, about how important partnerships are. What's the key to forming, because obviously this channel is not just about health or medical, it's about entrepreneurship, it's about business, about how to make money, be successful. So what's the key to forming successful partnerships in business, and how do you maintain a shared vision, right? Businessman, scientist, how are you guys able to maintain that shared vision, whether it's medical or whether it's any other business for somebody watching? How are you able to do that? How are you able to maintain that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's very important that when you have a business that you have partners. You need to be able to talk to someone about your business.
You can't do it all yourself as well.
People try, and some people can be very successful on their own. I'm not one of those people. I need to be able to relate to my partners, relate to my colleagues, and work together on the business opportunities, both the good and the bad. There's always good things that happen in business. There's always bad things that happen in business. And when the bad things happen, for example, COVID-19 was a bad thing for many businesses, including our own. You've got to be able to talk about it, and I've been lucky to develop strong relationships with good partners, good colleagues over my time, and I think that I've always valued working with people who I like to spend time with, people who are my friends, because if they're your friends and there's a disagreement, you can always sit down and talk through that disagreement and find a way out of that disagreement one way or the other, because quite often it's not black and white. Someone's not going to be right and someone's not going to be wrong, and there's a compromise. Business is a lot about compromise. So I think that it's as you say, it's critically important to have those good partnerships. I think if you are honest with people in business, then you'll generate their respect. And you'll be able to have a relationship with those people for a long time. Unfortunately, I found that in business, many people will disappoint you. So I'm, having spent most of my business career in Hong Kong, I'm generally skeptical, but I always like to give people a chance. But once people have done the wrong thing by me once, I'm not the kind of guy that gives second chances, and maybe that's a fault of my personality, but I've never had a good outcome giving someone a second chance. So, believe in human nature, believe in people, but if they do the wrong thing by you, well then just move on to the next person.
True. And I read that you're very open to taking any meetings, any messages, anything at all, because of that saying you're very fond of is, you know which one it is?
Very, very fond of.
It's the saying, if you never know what leads to what.
Oh, you never know what leads to what, right.
That's the one you're a big fan of, because you never know what happens, right?
It's true. I think, I probably have to spend less time saying yes. My wife always tells me that. But I like people, I like meeting interesting people. I think that as human beings, we need to consistently challenge ourselves. I try to put myself consistently in uncomfortable situations and challenge myself, because otherwise you just get to coast, right? And I think most people are happy to just keep doing the same thing day after day, week after week, year after year. And that's fine. That's fine for most people, but not for me. I just want to keep challenging myself. And I think if you keep challenging yourself, then you keep learning. And, it's great as an older human being to continue to learn, because there's always something new under the sun. I'm trying to understand cryptocurrency. I'm trying to understand blockchain. Good. I'm trying to understand artificial intelligence. Not doing a very good job so far, but I'm trying.
So all this hustle and bustle, all this work, you're a busy man, I'm sure. I know with the work I do, I like to shut off every once in a while. Entrepreneurs, it's hard to shut off. It's hard because you're always thinking about your business. It's your baby. How do you shut off? Do you shut off? I'm sure you do, but what's your pastime? How do you shut off? How do you get away from the world?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I find it critically important for me, and this is me, it doesn't work for everybody, to do a couple of things in the morning when I get up. I do some, I've now become a Buddhist. I was born a Christian, but I'm now, I would say, a Buddhist in terms of my philosophy. And so I spend some time thinking about Buddhism and meditating in the morning, and then I go to the gym or I go for a jog. I find it absolutely critical every morning to do some exercise. If I don't do the exercise,
get the blood flowing.
Get the blood flowing, but also, more importantly, to clear your mind and just reset yourself for the day ahead. If I don't do that exercise, I don't feel as good during the day as if I do. And I think that it's very important at the end of the day. Most days I just go home and spend time with family, and I'm very lucky to have a very good wife. I'm very lucky to have great children, and one of my daughters just moved back to Thailand with her family. She's got 2 young girls, 5 and 2, and so great to have my grandchildren here as well. So spend time with them, and when you spend time with young children, that definitely sort of shows you what's important in life and helps you to reset your business brain to be something a little bit less focused on business than you otherwise would be.
You mentioned you have a rich and diverse, by the way, this is one of the last questions. I know you're a busy man, you have a busy schedule, it's almost done. I know you said you have a couple different religions or whatnot. How did that, or that culture, different cultures, how did that pave the way in your businesses? Did it help you? Did it not, being from different religions?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I was brought up as a Christian, but we weren't a very religious family. My father was Jewish, and he was lucky to escape the Nazis before World War II, and then he came to the Philippines during the war and was subject to the Japanese invasion, and that wasn't much fun either. So by the time he got to Australia and met my mum, he figured that there was nothing else they could throw at him in life that was any worse than what had already happened. So we didn't have a strong religious background or a strong emphasis on religion growing up, but I can say that my father was very strong on moral values, which we talked about before, and the kind of moral values that most religions would emphasize. You know, the Christian religion, the Jewish religion, Islam, and Buddhism as well. I've got a lot of friends who are Sikhs, and that the same thing with the Sikh religion. I think most religions are very similar in what they ask their followers to practice.
Do the right thing.
Essentially, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So do the right thing, don't harm people, treat people well. I sort of like, pretty simple, but, try and be kind to people. It doesn't cost anything to be kind.
It's free to smile, right?
It's free to smile, and that's the great thing about this country, Thailand. It's known as the land of smiles. People are always smiling.
Always greeting you.
Always greeting you. Here, sawadee ka, and being very kind. And so I think that's a very important human characteristic that we should follow. And Buddhism, it's not so much a religion to me, it's more a way of life, of a philosophy. What I like about Buddhism is that it teaches you that everything that happens to you is a consequence of what you've done yourself, either in this life or in your past life.
And usually it's the bad experiences is what makes you, right?
Yeah, it is. And if you sort of live by a philosophy that says, if you do bad things will happen to you. If you do good things will happen to you. I think that's fair.
Right.
It's
eye
fair
for
enough,
an eye.
Right? Not so much an eye for an eye, but just you're in control of your own destiny. Look after your own affairs and let other people look after their own affairs, right? Don't be messing into other people's lives, right?
100%.
So that's kind of how I look at it. I mean, unfortunately, in the world today, we have so many conflicts that have been caused by religion. It's too bad that humans don't get along. I can't imagine as a species why we develop weapons that could wipe us out, right? And the nuclear war clock is very close to midnight right now. In all these wars that are going on, there could easily be a miscalculation, and once you start with those nuclear bombs, the whole world blows up. But imagine that we developed a weapon as a race
to save the world.
To
blow up the world
could wipe us all out.
While you're sitting here trying to save the world, right? What is this?
It's one person at a time. But it's extraordinary to me, and humans are the only animal species that actually take more than what we need. Every other animal just takes what they need to survive, right? But we just take. And so, I don't know if we're as smart as we think we are.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I want to, just to wrap this up, I would love if you could just share a piece of advice on how youngsters out there can do what you did. How can they take the steps to meet the right people, put themselves in the right positions to get to the places where they need to be. Obviously, there's a ladder, right? You can't just go from an executive, an accountant on the laptop to CEO of a very successful medical company just like that. You put yourself in the right place, put yourself in the right position. What kind of advice can you give to these entrepreneurs watching?
Yeah, I don't think that most people are brilliant strategists. So we have to sort of learn as we go along. A good education is important. But I think getting out there in the street, as we say, is critically important. So when you want to develop a career, you want to try and find something that you really love to do. Mm-hmm. It's much easier to be passionate about something you love to do than something that is not so interesting for you. And you've got to go and meet as many people as you can. Go to events, just get out there and meet people, and always hang out with people that are smarter than you. So you're learning from them. You can always learn something from everybody. As I said before, be kind. You never know what kind of lesson you learn from someone who's maybe sweeping the street, who's maybe in the bathroom cleaning the toilets. Everyone has something that you can learn from them. It could be a lesson in life. How to take a different turn and not become just a manual worker. Some people like that kind of career. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, you've got to work hard. There's no doubt about that. Find as many different opportunities as you can through meeting people. Find some good partners. That's very important. And don't be afraid to fail, because you're going to fail. Everybody fails. And you've got to be able to continue to get up off the floor when you fail and come back and try something different. Because no one in the world has been successful all the time. And I always like the story of Colonel Sanders of Kentucky Fried Chicken fame. I think he started the business in his late 60s, about the same age as I am now, and became a global success after failing in so many businesses, right? So don't be afraid to fail, and put a good team together around you, and keep learning. It's absolutely critical. In this day and age, you've got to innovate. If you don't innovate, your business is going to fail. So you've got to keep learning about what's going on in the world. The world is such a fast pace now. If you don't innovate, you're not going to have a successful business.
Well, if you ask me, I'm going to be in Bangkok here for a while now, and they say surround yourself with people you want to be like. So I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to surround myself with you as much as possible. All right?
For sure, Mo. Be happy with that.
Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you very soon.
Okay. Thanks very much for
Take
today.
care. All right.
Thank
bye-bye.
you.